I'm Willie D. Nelson from All Things Good and Nerdy, a pop culture podcast, part of the Gonna Geek Network. Just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other tantalizingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And welcome to Play Comics, where once again we're looking at a video game based on a comic property and how well it represents that source material. And today we're looking at something fantastic with a nerd who likes to get things into an alignment so that some people would say that they're in sync, maybe. I don't know. He might be from the backstreets, though. It's Scott from NerdSync. Scott, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It is, 8 p.m. on a weekday. It's got me going strong. I'm in my 30s now. This is like this is as late as I can stay up. This is how I get my thrills, my kicks. Staying up late recording podcasts. That's what I do.
I mean, isn't that like the best thing in the entire world is just recording podcasts, especially when you don't have to edit it?
It's so good. My favorite thing to do is threaten to podcast. I'll threaten to make more podcasts. Anytime I'm just talking with a friend of mine and we don't have a podcast together, I'm like, man, we're so funny. We should start a podcast. And we just might if people bully me enough. My biggest weapon in the world is becoming another podcast, starting another podcast with another white guy. The world needs more of this.
If enough people ask, Scott and I will start a podcast talking about cheese.
Oh. So many thoughts. What are your thoughts on blue cheese? Go.
Icky.
Wrong. Incorrect. Love it. See? Oh, we're going to have so much good back and forth banter because we don't agree on everything, and that's the best part.
One thing we can definitely agree on, though, is that we are here to talk about a Fantastic Four game, and it's Fantastic Four. So, Scott, for some context, what made you see this Fantastic Four game and say, ooh, I want to talk about that one?
Oh, man. I think you gave me a couple options of what I wanted to play, but I've been really into the Game Boy Advance. I keep saying Advanced, even though I know it's just Game Boy Advance with no D at the end. I've been really into the Game Boy Advance catalog because I never had one growing up, and there are so many cool games on there and so many good games, and I have a retro handheld. I have a couple now that I bought last year, and I've been just really enjoying going through this incredible catalog of games that I never got to play, and they're beautiful. And the music is good, and the sound is good, and the sprite work is great on pretty much everything, all these games. So seeing a Fantastic Four game in this era of, we've got a new Fantastic Four movie. It's on the, this game is on the GBA. I'm into the GBA at this moment. It just felt like a match made in the cosmos, in the cosmic rays.
Nominally, this game is based on the first movie, kind of-ish, because there was a different game that was also based on the first movie that actually makes more sense. Scott, what experiences do you have with that 2005 movie?
I remember liking it a lot growing up. I haven't seen it since I was a kid is the thing. So, but I watched it a lot. I watched all those, all the early X-Men and Fantastic Four and Daredevil, like obviously the Spider-Man movies. I watched all of those a lot growing up. And I think I maybe watched Rise of the Silver Surfer more than the first Fantastic Four movie. But it has elements that I think are really interesting and fun. I think it captures a fairly decent family dynamic, and it shows them using their powers in non-superhero ways that are fun. I just think it's kind of like a fun, campy movie. It's got problems, but otherwise, it's just kind of fun. nostalgic.
Yeah. I mean, the movies, I think, are nowhere near as bad as people talk about them now being. Their early 2000s
Yeah.
thought process of everything, and stuff was different back then. And I mean, you have America's ass being Johnny Storm.
Yes.
So what more do you
Yeah.
need?
And look, people still can't make stretching look not goofy or bad or like ugly, you know, in like modern day cinema. It's still hard to make like Mr. Fantastic look cool or interesting. It just kind of looks silly. And they had to do that back then with less of a budget, less advanced CGI, and they did what they could, and it was just kind of fun. So I'm here for it. I like the actual prosthetics of the Thing, like the physical costume that Michael Chiklis was in. I think that was interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I have fond memories of those movies.
Do you also have fond memories, though, of reading Fantastic Four comics?
Yeah, I do. I have some of my first comic books that I read were all centered around the Fantastic Four. So my dad, when I was growing up, was a huge comic book collector, and so he would like go every Wednesday to just buy new comic books. And while his main focus was Spider-Man, all of the big sort of events, like the event comics of like the 80s and 90s, were things that he would, buy individual issues of, and then maybe later, a volume or what have you. So things like Secret Wars was one. I know Mr. Fantastic was a pretty key player there, and Doom, obviously Doom as well, a pretty key player in that story. I liked getting introduced to those characters, seeing those characters, and of course, even with Spider-Man comics that I had a lot of growing up, there was always crossovers of Spider-Man and Human Torch. They got along really well, and just sort of two peas in a pod, I feel. So it was fun seeing them pop up here and there, and I think I even just have some old Fantastic Four comic books laying around, just because I've made a lot of videos about them, and Jack Kirby's art style is phenomenal, and just like his mind and imagination that he used to make those comic books, and just otherworldly, literally and figuratively.
And has all that Fantastic Four love run into current comics as well?
As in, do I still read Fantastic Four comic books these days? Is that the question?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting at. And then I'm going to put a direct line to Ryan North and tell him if you say no.
Oh, no. Oh, the thing is, everyone looks at me and they're like, look at Scott, this big time YouTuber. He's probably got all the money in the world to buy all the comic books that he wants to read. But I have a very slimmed down budget of what I'm allowed to spend. So my reading list is quite slim, and usually it's older comics that I haven't even finished. Like, I don't know. I've said this for years and years. Like, I feel like I'll never get caught up because I'm still reading stuff that are like quintessential from like the 80s and 90s or 60s and things like that. And I'm just like, I'm still always catching up depending on what my videos need. And sometimes there'll be like one or two comic books in modern day that I hear so many things about that I have to dive into. But no, I'm not reading any currently. That's I was trying to do like a politician answer and not actually answer your question, but I'll just answer it directly. No, I'm not reading any Fantastic Four directly currently right now.
I mean, spoiler alert for one thing, you really should, because the current run that Ryan North is on is also really good.
Okay.
Eventually that will be on your quintessential list of ones that you should have to read.
Yeah. There's so many right now. I've been hearing so many good things about so many different comic books. I feel like I'm missing out, and I am, obviously. So, all right.
I understand your pain because I have to cater things around what I'm doing for the show as well. So,
yeah.
Like, I recently decided I'm only going to record 4 or 5 episodes a month, which inevitably means I'm going to have weeks between recording sometime, which is amazing, and I can read things for fun. And what is that?
Yeah. What does that look like? Exactly. I'm always just reading books based off of the next video I have to do. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do you mean I have time to just chill out and read a comic book just for funsies? No. If I'm reading it, it's because I'm going to make a video about it. I don't have
Sometimes
time.
the books don't even have pictures.
I know, tell me about it, and that makes it real hard for me. So I can't. It's infuriating, these people who don't have pictures in their books. Get it together. We have the technology. We figured it out. All books should be comic books.
It's like they expect us to use our imaginations and just picture what's going on our own.
Gross. But then we're all going to have a different image in our head. I need something canonical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is one reason why I was happy to have you on for a Fantastic Four game, because it is such an important part of the Marvel Universe. It seems like they don't get enough love in the video game world, which I can kind of understand a little bit, because you have a certain team that has to be used, even though on the PS1 game they didn't use that team. So it gets weird already there. And yeah.
And they really only used one character in this game that we played.
This one, though, I mean, it says it on the tin what you're getting into. And
Absolutely.
Johnny Storm is just exactly who I think a lot of people wanted to be when they grew up, unless they were giant nerds and decided they wanted to be Mr. Fantastic.
Also true. I think it's hard to... He's definitely, I think, the one that leads into more interesting gameplay because of, obviously, his fire ability. Like, Thing could be a decent beat-em-up game, but, it doesn't make it any different than another beat-em-up game, effectively. Whereas Human Torch, he's got the fire powers, he can fly a little bit, he can still punch if he wants to. Turns out, in this game, they really like it when he punches. That's, like, his main thing. I feel like he's also like probably the most charismatic, especially in these movies, these early Fantastic Four movies. So I get why they'd want to just center it around him. Makes sense.
Well, on that note, we're going to go try to up our charisma scores while I drop some promos for a few other things.
Hi, and welcome to Gender Pop. I'm your host Carly, but don't worry, it won't just be me. A roster of beautiful people will be joining me throughout the season to discuss their relationship to gender through the lens of pop culture. If you want to hear passionate and honest and thoughtful conversations that explores our journey with the concept of gender by examining the art and media we consume, then this is the podcast for you. I do hope that you'll check it out. Please subscribe and follow as new episodes are released every Tuesday. Thank you, and I really look forward to embarking on this with you. Gender Pop is completely free and available wherever you like to listen.
Hello there.
I'm Cass.
And I'm Tommy.
And we're the host of Distant Echoes, a Star Wars podcast where we travel through the galaxy watching every Star Wars TV series in whatever order we please.
If you love impassioned deep dives that touch on almost every corner of the Star Wars universe you could possibly imagine.
And if you're looking for a Star Wars podcast with hosts who aren't experts.
And don't pretend to be.
But instead are just a couple of goofs who engage with the fandom a healthy amount.
Then come check us out.
We're also a proud member of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective, so you can bet we have some pretty gay takes on Star Wars, which means, yes, we do love the Star Wars Holiday Special, so if you can't take that, maybe this isn't the podcast for you.
But if it is, and you love Lumpy as much as we do, then find us wherever you get your podcasts and on social media at Distant Echoes Pod on Blue Sky
and Distant Echoes SW on Instagram. Goodbye.
Those are some great things to check out, but first let's finish up here. So Scott, what is really bringing us here today is this November 8th, 2005 release. Hey, that was my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, brother, from long time ago.
Yeah. The year as well, or just the date?
Oh, no, just the date.
Okay. How wild would that be?
That would actually be really cool. I need to go back and see if anything happened on any of mine or my siblings' birthdays.
That's actually a good idea. I have no idea if any video game was released on my birthday. I'm old though, so probably not.
I know that the NES was out for my birthday and that I'm older than you, so there's a chance.
All right. There's a chance. I'll take it.
So anyway, this November 8th game, as we said, on the Game Boy Advance, made by Taurus Games, published by Activision, obviously based on the Marvel property, nominally the movie, which we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of not really. I mean, the whole plot of the game There's a scroll invasion.
It does something really funny, which is if you've seen the first Fantastic Four movie, there's a bit where right after they get their powers, Johnny is like, I'm going to go snowboarding, to sort of like flirt with this lady. And this game sort of takes, it picks up from there. He goes snowboarding, he's got his powers. And then effectively this whole game happens. A Skrull invasion, Galactus is there. There's all this cosmic, otherworldly stuff that he's getting involved with. And then he comes back to Earth and all the other heroes join him. Like, where have you been? We got to go stop Victor Von Doom right now. The implication being that this game took place within an hour or two, a couple of hours between him, snowboarding and then meeting up with the rest of the gang in the movie. So I think that's pretty funny and quite fun.
He does go really fast.
Oh yeah, it goes fast. He goes fast. The game goes fast. I did watch a long play of this game at 3x speed on YouTube just so I could see the end of it. And that was quite fast, turns out. But I also did play it on my retro handheld. I just didn't get all the way through. For reasons I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, I did not get to play this one as much as I would have liked to, but I feel like I played enough of it because the game, I mean, it's a game from 2005, especially these handheld games, you got a lot of repetitive stuff in there.
Yes.
But, I mean, what are you going to do? That's how games were back then on the nice tiny screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say if I could get into sort of my pros and cons of this game, I would say for me the biggest weak links of this game are enemy variety. There's not a lot of them. You fight about 5 or 6 different Skrulls, and then later in the game you fight 3 to 4 different robots later, and then there's some boss battles every so often. But the Skrull enemies, the types, are introduced in like the first level, and then you just fight them for about 2/3 of the game before you even get to the other like robot enemies later. So enemy variety pretty low. They deal with that by trapping you a couple times in these levels to fight maybe 10 of them. But you can easily one-shot all of them with your cosmic powers that you collect throughout the level. I would say the only other thing that really threw me is I don't want to like get into like a rant here or whatever, but I did think of like 2 things that would really make this game a hidden gem, a cult classic, if you will, which is number 1, you've got this ability to like sort of rush forward by hitting A and B at the same time. You sort of like launch yourself forward, rocket yourself forward. That should make you invincible. That should give you iframes when you do that, because that would effectively be a dodge roll. And this game desperately needs a dodge roll sort of button, because enemies are shooting at you and punching you all the time. And they have the mechanic to like sort of launch yourself forward or backwards with this AB button press. But you just end up launching yourself at, projectiles that enemies are shooting, and it doesn't feel fair. So I think that should give you iframes, because you can also rocket yourself in the air or at angles, which I think is really cool. But yeah, so I think that would be an instant improvement. If anyone is out there and you make ROM hacks, make that one change. Then this game is already like 20-30% better. The other thing is I was a little disappointed in the lack of environment interactivity. In the first couple levels, there are things like icicles that fall on you, or like pits of, other stalagmites and things that you could fall into. And that's interesting. I wish they could hurt the enemies as well, and that I could sort of target them and like line up enemies and shoot an icicle down. And I know that at this point, I'm probably asking for things that the GBA may or may not have been capable of at the time. But it would be cool if Johnny just had a move where he shot a fireball up diagonally, and then every couple of levels, there was some thing that you could do, like an icicle, shoot up a fireball diagonally, line up an enemy, and hits them. There's a level where you're at like a construction yard. There could be a steel girder. that you shoot up diagonally, and it maybe needs more hits to take down because it has a wider thing. So it's like a little risk reward to like line everyone up properly. Things like that I think would be cool. Environment interaction, just because otherwise you're fighting the same 5 enemies in levels that are just effectively the same, but just in like, they're just reskinned levels. Like, oh, this one's ice level, this one's desert level, this one's city level, but you're still fighting the same enemies. So like having some variation would be good. Those are my critiques.
I mean, even if you wanted to do that as like, instead of a driving level change of pace, you have that kind of level change of pace, that would be cool. So, because like you, I can understand them not having that kind of thing in the levels that we got. That is a lot for a game in 2005.
Yes.
But you do that in your change of pace level, and that's all that's happening, they could definitely pull that off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do it, even if it was just for like boss battles and things too, I think would be interesting to use the environment to like fight some of the bosses would be cool. And so there's a little bit of that here and there with Galactus, but again, like the environment only hurts you. It would be interesting if you could line up enemies to get the environment to hurt them also. But I don't know. It would be fun, but I understand there may be a tech. I've never programmed a Game Boy Advance game. But it would be cool. It would be cool if something like that existed. I will say I've been understanding this more as I play more Game Boy Advance games, is these change of pace levels like you're talking about, where you'll have your classic side-scrolling beat 'em up sort of level with some platforming and things like that. And then like maybe you'll have one of those or 2 of those in a row, like max, before they introduce something like a downhill snowboarding level where you can do trick jumps and you're racing someone, or you're doing like sort of a bullet hell, side on sort of shooting fireballs at in the sky as you're flying, or you're doing motorcycle, trick jumps and things like that. And I don't know. A lot of the games I've played on Game Boy Advance really they hit on a lot of this. To be fair, I've played a lot of licensed games, so I wonder if that is just sort of like a cheat sheet for them to sort of tell more of the story and, from the movie or what have you in interesting ways. Because the Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed video game has a similar thing where every couple of levels they'll break it up with something new. But I think that's interesting. I have ADHD, so I'm happy. I'm happy to have something new and novel every couple of minutes. Yes, please.
It's a great thing, though. Sonic the Hedgehog would always have that, and you could skip it if you didn't want to. But, you jump around and either go around in the half pipe getting rings or go around getting the balls to change colors depending on which one you're playing.
Yes.
Batman always has those driving levels in those games.
Oh, yeah.
This one
That's
just
very
really
true.
needed something. It's Johnny Storm. It's screaming for a side-scrolling shooter level.
Absolutely. It has a little bit of that later on where you're like flying and you're shooting fireballs at things, but like, I don't know. I would even like, again, like his powers they're so good for environmental stuff. Like imagine if there was just like a slow down puzzle level where it's just like you have to like light certain things on fire or maybe in a certain order, or like to like do something to unlock the next part of the level. Because like that was the other thing too, is a lot of these levels, the basic like fighting levels, will lock the camera in at 3 or 4 times, per stage, and they'll just like shove enemies at you until you defeat them, as a way to like slow you down and have like a big battle or something. But it would also be cool if there was just like something in your way that actually prevented you from progressing, rather than arbitrarily locking down the camera and sending enemies at you. If it was like, oh, there's a big thing in the way and Johnny has to burn it, or he has to burn something around it from a different angle so that it falls. There's a lot of stuff like that where you could use his powers, again, sort of in the environment as like a puzzle and not just, punching and stuff. He punches more than anything in this game. He punches more than he shoots. There's one move you can do to shoot a fireball, but otherwise you're like effectively punching all the time.
I would settle for some crates come and block your way, and they just catch on fire as you walk past them.
Crates, a video game classic. We're not asking them to reinvent video games here. I'm happy if they rely on tropes. Crate's a great example of this. I think that's fantastic. Simple stuff.
Part of me wants to give this game crap because the story is so simple. The other 80% of me makes me remember that this is a GBA game. They can get up to like 32 megs in size, if I remember right. I've looked it up way too much, so that number's sticking in my brain. And that's only so much that you can get here on the cart.
Yeah. It's only so much. It's probably why there's a limit of villain sprites and things, but I don't know, man. There have been some pretty impressive GBA games out there that have done a lot more, but it's probably it might be a budgetary thing, you know? How much do licensed games get usually? Not a lot of money, typically. So, I don't know. It's not a bad game. I feel like I've been talking negatively about it. It's more so just like there's a lot of stuff that I wish it did, because if it did these things, it would be like an instant like, oh my gosh, have you never played Fantastic Four Flame On? Like that's one of the best GBA games out there. And there's like just a couple, I say little, again, I don't know how to program these games, but it would be exciting to see some improvements. So if you do ROM hacking, once again, take notes, hit me up. Actually you don't have to hit me up. Just do it and take full credit. I don't care. Do it. Make it.
I mean, definitely hit you up and make sure that you know it exists so you can play it.
Well, yeah, for sure do that. Hit me up when it's done and I'll be happy about it. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll make a video about it. That would be fun.
I mean, normally I'm not sitting here like rating games and stuff, because the whole point is how much does this reflect the source material, which is still a weird thing to say, I think. But
yeah,
this game is a solid 6 out of 10. You know, it's like, it's not bad. I don't hate myself for playing it or anything. You know, if I have it in the car, I'm gonna pop it in, I'm gonna play it. It's fine. It's just, it's not gonna be that one that I go tell my friend, this is super amazing, you have to play it. I'm not gonna go around bragging that I found it, but I'm happy I have it.
Yeah, there's not going to be videos made about like 6 hidden gems on the GBA. You've got to play right now, and then this is one of them. It's a fine game though. It's pretty average. It like the movement is fine. It controls okay, like for platforming and whatnot. There's a decent amount of like combos and like weight and like the way that you hit the D-pad while you're punching changes the types of moves that you do, which I thought was pretty interesting for a game at the time, especially a game that, again, like my head is like, oh, licensed games probably don't have a lot of love and care in them, but this one, at least, I don't know if it did, but at least it could have been lazier, and it wasn't as lazy as it could have been, which I appreciate. So I don't know. I think it's a good game. I just wanted it to be a great game is all. And I think it's very, very funny that it takes place in between scenes from the movie. I think that's a very funny way to do it. I think there are moments as well where they use one voice line potentially from Chris Evans, which is when you cross a checkpoint and you just hear him go like, "Whoa!" That may be a Chris Evans voice line from the movie, and that would be very funny.
I mean, getting any kind of voice on a GBA is an accomplishment anyway.
Yeah. Very bit crushed, but you know what it is. You hear it.
I mean, just everything here. I'm with you. I wish the game was better. I really wanted to love this one.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what do you think are the things that this one really gets right, looking at Fantastic Four and specifically at Johnny Storm, since he's the only person we get to actually play as?
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I've been quite negative. And again, I don't mean to imply that this game is bad in any capacity. There are things that are good about this that made me be like, oh, this could be great. And I think a lot of it is, I thought genuinely the sprite work was very easy to read for the enemies, and I loved the fire effects for Johnny, especially some of the attacks I thought were really good. I think fire is one of those things that's quite tricky to portray well and make it look natural and good. And I think the designers and animators and artists and things like that did a really good job of making it feel organic in a cool way, especially all the different moves you can do, like slamming down and like a pillar of fire comes up, and you've got your cosmic moves that like shoot a big blast of fire or like do a sort of area of effect fire move. Those were quite good, and especially those cosmic moves that have like some lighting effects where like these surrounding area dims a little bit to like really make it feel like this big powerful thing that you're doing. I thought that was really good. I thought it took me a while to understand this. Some of the level design is quite sprawling and maze-like. Like there are like little hidden compartments or things like that, or like little areas you can go to that are like totally optional. And it felt like there was no reason for them. I was like, this is just trying to make me feel lost and making this level expand a little bit more than it needs to. And I've come to learn, I guess, quite early, you know, within the first couple of levels, that there are side objectives in the game. At least one side objective. There are multiple, like getting a high score and collecting things and whatnot. But there are other side objectives like helping like hostages, finding hostages. And I think having those additional objectives that are totally optional, to give you something to do outside of just punching the same couple of scrolls over and over again. I think that was a really smart idea to give you replayability. Like, ooh, this time I want to find all the hostages. I want to collect all of the little gems that give me a higher score. Things like that I thought were a good touch to make it so that the levels had different ways of playing them. So yeah, I would say that. And I did enjoy some of like the gimmicky levels, like the snowboarding where you just do like backflips, and I'm bad at them, so I just face plant. That was quite funny. And the like the BMX felt like a Flash game, which was very nostalgic in a way. Like I say that lovingly, it felt like a Flash game, and I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, there are highlights for me. I think those are my favorite parts. I think were quite smart. What about you?
Well, I mean, despite the fact that we're only playing as Johnny Storm, you do actually see other characters from the Fantastic Four in here. Mostly it's Mr. Fantastic there at the beginning on your little tutorial thing, but it doesn't completely ignore all of them, which is good. I mean, that sounds horrible that that's what I'm coming up with, but you hit most of the highlights in your thing, and I don't want to repeat what you've said because, you know, I mean, you're in there. I mean, the other thing that I just really want to emphasize is the sprite work in here on this, because you got to remember a GBA screen is like the size of the palm of your hand. So if people are going back and looking at videos now and seeing what this looks like because they listened to this episode, you're probably looking at it on a TV. Like, even if you're looking at it on your phone, it's bigger than what a GBA screen is. So everything is going to look kind of bad and pixelated, and it wasn't designed for that anyway. So just keep that in mind and remember that it looks better.
Yes. I highly recommend, if you are like me and you have any of these retro handhelds to play video games on, very specifically for the GBA and a couple of the other ones like the Game Boy Color and things like that. But I found for the GBA specifically, having appropriate, like the proper shaders and things to, number one, like balance pixels, but also like overlay a grid so it sort of looks similar to how it would have looked on the original hardware. It is not only does it make it like, you know, quote unquote feel more authentic, but it makes the artwork just really shine, because you can, when you see the grid and especially if the pixels are balanced to that grid using these shaders, like it makes it you can really appreciate just like, oh, this is only, you know, these details going up and down are literally just 2 pixels, and it brings so much life to this sprite over here. And I mean, it's how I've played all the GBA games I've been going through in my catalog of like must plays. I always have these shaders on, and it really just makes it feel like the proper way to play them. It makes them look better, I think, by emphasizing the grid and whatnot. So highly recommend doing that.
What do you think this one really gets wrong, looking at Johnny Storm and the Fantastic Four?
Yeah. I will say, not to hammer in on this, but boy, does he just punch a lot in this game. They just really want to make sure you know that Johnny Storm can punch people. And I feel like he's not opposed to punching people, but that's really not his main thing. He sort of shoots fire at people. And again, there is a move you can do, like you can hold down on the D-pad and hit the attack button, and that will shoot fire towards whichever direction you're facing. But then you have all of these other moves where it's just a lot of punching and kicking and things like that, which just feels backwards, I think, from how he actually attacks most of the time in the comics and in the movie that this is based on. So that would be like my big thing, and it also just doesn't help to highlight the character very well. Like, this is a fire-based character who flies around, shoots flames at people, and they reserve that for like the special attack is to shoot a big flame, the big flame at somebody. So I think that's the sort of the biggest thing for me. The other thing is admittedly, after the intro, I just sort of skipped through all the dialogue that came my way. I just didn't think it was particularly well written for the character or the world, but that's just me. I get bored when there's a lot of and it felt like there was a lot of dialogue at the start of this game, but maybe I'm just sensitive to that.
I mean, the dialogue that was there, after you get past the tutorial, that I don't think it's really gonna mess anything up that you didn't see it.
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing for me, really holding this one back from connecting me to Johnny Storm, is this character is not a smartass. Like, Johnny Storm is a smartass because he knows that he can get away with it, because he knows that he is that good. Cocky.
Yeah.
That's the word that I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
This is not a cocky Johnny Storm at all.
No. It's definitely like womanizing Johnny Storm. Like it's that version of him who's like, oh, I'm interested in the ladies and whatnot, which is fine. That's fine for a character choice, but it is, I don't know. He didn't have that same sort of charisma, that same sort of confidence. Like I wasn't excited to hear what he had to say to the villains. It was just sort of like, okay, this is sort of like C-tier sitcom writing for like the funny character.
It definitely made me wonder if this was a game that was just in development anyway, and somebody decided that it needed to be a Fantastic Four game.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good observation. I feel like, I mean, you would know more than me, but it feels like that is a sort of thing that could happen quite often, and maybe has happened.
It definitely has happened. I don't know what to look for specifically inside the game. Like, I have seen accounts of people saying that it has happened with this game or that game. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but you have past episodes where I said it or future episodes where I will say it. But there's got to be some kind of clue in game that would let me in on that. And honestly, though, I think the biggest one that I've been able to find is just could this character be Mario and have the whole game make sense?
That's good. That's a good observation. Yeah. I only know, I feel like I've been talking about ROM hacking so much, but that's just been like a special interest of mine as I do more of these retro handhelds and just sort of like go back to old games that I'm like, oh, maybe someone has some quality of life improvements and whatnot. Have you, this feels right up your alley, and I'm not sure if you've done this on this podcast before, but have you played the Captain America Winter Soldier ROM hack of where it is effectively, I mean, it literally is a different game. Power Blade 2 is the original game. And someone back in 2014 just reskinned it so that it plays like you are Captain America going through the movie Winter Soldier from the MCU.
I did not even know that existed, and now I am so mad at myself.
It plays really well. I mean, because effectively what they did is they reskinned it, I assume, and or I don't know if they changed much else. They reskinned it and they, like have these story beats in the middle to sort of mimic the movie and whatnot. But otherwise, it just plays like a legitimate Captain America game. He throws his shield. He can like slide under things. Like the action is quite good and fluid. and it feels like a legitimate game, but it's based on a movie that came out obviously like a decade or so after this would have been actually made, this game. So it's very, very good. Highly recommend it. I wish more people did that. In fact, I've been considering doing something similar where I've been trying to not to like paint myself in a corner here, like put myself in a box rather, but like I have been playing so many Scooby-Doo games for future videos, and they're all, not all, but most are quite bad. And there is a part of me that wants to find, similar to this person, an old Game Boy Advance game or NES game or something like SNES something, and just sort of that plays well and would lean itself towards a good Scooby-Doo game, but then just reskin it to be Scooby-Doo themed. So if someone knows of a good game to ROM hack for Scooby-Doo, let me know. Get in touch. I'm going to have an army of ROM hackers after this episode goes up, all trying to contact me for different reasons.
Oh, why go that old? Do Silent Hill Scooby-Doo.
That might be a little bit harder to reskin than something from the NES, but you never know. Or the Game Boy Color. Ooh, that would be fun too.
If you knew somebody who wanted to get into the Fantastic Four, and specifically into Johnny Storm, would you give them this game as part of a primer course?
No. I wish the answer was yes. I'm so disappointed. I wish the answer was yes. No. He doesn't feel like Johnny Storm in terms of characteristic, in terms of the way that he fights and plays and moves. He rarely flies in this game. There are only certain levels where he flies. Otherwise, it is just... It could be any other. You could reskin this game to be a person who's not on fire, just a regular person who, I mean, it could literally be, you could reskin it to be like a Zuko game where it's just fire bending, and change some of the dialogue around, and otherwise you're all good. But still have him fight Skrulls, because that happens in the fanfic that I'm writing.
You better be being serious about that.
I don't have time. I don't have time to write fanfic. I don't have time to read comics. I don't have time to do anything fun.
Well, let's do something fun right now, because I'm going to skip over my answer there. Yeah, obviously, I'm not going to have them play this game either.
Fair enough.
Watch the movie. I mean, play the other Fantastic Four game, which is based on the movie, and I also don't think is a great one to introduce people, but at least it's better. But let's take this game and just get all of the Fantastic Four burn marks off of it.
Yes.
Let's make it a Muppet game. Who is your main character and who are your enemies?
All right. Let's see. Main character. For no reason, I have such an affinity for Rolf. I think underrated Muppet, so funny. That is my main character. Now, would Rolf do anything action related? Probably not. But that's where my head is at. That's where my head immediately goes.
He could walk around with one of those guitars.
Also true. I mean, at that point, you can make it an animal game, fighting with with drumsticks, and just being all wacky and whatnot, and fighting corporate people in suits with the power of rock and roll. The end.
I mean, that is something the Muppets would do, and I'm surprised we haven't seen yet.
Can we look? My wife is such an enormous fan of the Muppets. She has told me on many occasions that out of all the people in the world I could be like pseudo connected to, like, oh, I could probably, like, I'm like 2 degrees off from meeting this famous person, or like maybe 1 degree off from meeting this, or like I met this famous person once, and like maybe I could like try and swing it and meet them again, like introduce my wife to these people. And like, it's not a lot of people, it's a lot of like 3 or 4 degrees, like most people in the world. But to me, it's like, I could do this just to make myself feel more impressive to my wife. She has told me she doesn't care about any of that. There's no human celebrities she would be impressed with meeting. The only celebrities she would ever be impressed with meeting and would cry about meeting, and just absolutely fall apart meeting in person, is any Muppet, any of them. She's like, I don't care if it's a C-tier Muppet, out there who's only been in a handful of episodes of Sesame Street. Let me meet a Muppet and I will die happy. So that is my mission, I suppose. And I need Disney to do a better job with this franchise because they've been screwing it up ever since they got it for the most part. And I need them to do better. And then maybe I'll make videos about them. And then maybe I'll meet Muppets and I'll get my wife to meet a Muppet. If you're a Muppet, hit me up. If you're a ROM hacker, hit me up. This is me calling all ROM hackers and Muppets, especially if you do both of those things at the same time. Are you a Muppet ROM hacker? Hit me up.
And Scott, if people are going to hit you up, where's the best place for them to find you around the internet?
Oh, man. The internet's changing these days. I'm mostly on Blue Sky. So hit me up on Blue Sky at Scott Niswander. But I guess I always say this and I forget that the main thing that I do that pays the bills is YouTube. Follow me on YouTube. That's the main thing that I do. It's my YouTube channel, NerdSync, NerdSync. I make video essays about comics and superheroes and cartoons. Lots of Scooby-Doo related stuff right now and for the past couple of years. But Superman, James Gunn's Superman's bringing me back to the comic book world. I'm loving it. It's good stuff. I'm making a lot of videos, I hope. I am making a lot in the background. I haven't posted much, but I'm researching and writing so much.
Well, if those are a quarter as good as the ones that you have put out already, then they will be really good. Scott has a wonderful channel that everybody should go check out. It's great. There's a ton of backlog. Almost everything is still super relevant.
Just about.
And even the ones that aren't are still fun, so watch those anyway.
Yeah, watch them anyway. Even the stuff that I got wrong. I made videos about what they're going to do with Thanos in Infinity War. And I got that totally wrong. But it's fun to see how I got it wrong. Go check it out. It's fun.
What if they want to hear you talk about weird things?
Oh, you're so good at reminding me what I do for a living. I also have a podcast. If you're a fan of podcasts, and look at you, you certainly are, then you can find the podcast that I do with my friend Tristan Johnson, and it's called It's Probably Not Aliens. It's a podcast where we look into ancient astronaut theory, the TV show Ancient Aliens, and we politely look into the claims just to see what they're about, but then it just turns into a dunk fest where we debunk basically everything that they talk about, all the pseudoscience and the pseudo-history, while also learning about the really cool real-life places and cultures and science behind some really cool stuff. So if you're interested in a podcast that is fun and kind of chill and you learn a lot, mostly because of Tristan, then go check it out. It's called It's Probably Not Aliens, and it's on everywhere you can get podcasts, pretty sure.
And knowing both of you as well as I do, which is an appropriate social level for people who have interacted a little bit on the internet and mostly don't interact, because parasocialism is bad, people. Don't do that. I have to believe that if there was something that the Ancient Aliens show actually gets right, you'll give them credit for it.
Yeah. One of these days.
That's
we'll
a big
give them credit
if.
for something. Huge if. It might be whenever they stop making episodes. We'll give them credit for that.
And if people want to get any of your stuff faster than other people, is there a way that they can do that? Because I have nothing if not an opportunity to let people show their stuff here at the end.
Oh my gosh, you're so good at this. Thank you. Yes, I have my own Patreon for NerdSync, patreon.com/NerdSync if you want to support my stuff. And we have one for It's Probably Not Aliens as well. Just call it patreon.com/probsnotaliens. But also, both of those, myself, my videos, bonus content, bonus episodes of the podcast, and just early episodes of the podcast are also available on our streaming service, nebula.tv /NerdSync or /ProbablyNotAliens. Either one of those. It's a cool place to be. I like being on Nebula. It's good content if you are into, thoughtful and entertaining videos, video essays, podcasts, stuff like that. Love being over there. It's good stuff.
And As always, we'll have links to all that stuff down in the show notes because clicking links is so much easier than trying to remember how to spell things, especially when there's punctuation involved. It gets messed up.
It gets so messy. Tristan, my podcast co-host, still doesn't know how to spell my YouTube channel. It's written wrong in every outline that he writes. He writes the outro. It says like, yeah, Scott plugs NerdSync, and he spells it wrong every time. So links are good. Clickable links are great.
As for me, the best place you can find me is over on playcomics.com, where there's links to all the social media things, which these days is basically Blue Sky and Threads, because I am branching out a little bit. It happens every once in a while, and it's fun. You know, it's not the same stuff in both places, so it's worth it to follow on both places. But, you know, if you only want to follow on one, that's cool. Do what you got to do to keep your own sanity going. If you want to be on the show, then there's a link down in the show notes to the list of things I'm looking to get booked the soonest. Check out that list. That's the main thing, because I'm trying to do these roughly chronologically, and sometimes that gets a little bit weird, like right now where there's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Naruto because they all got dumped on us at once. But, I mean, what can you do? You know, I'm probably going to stretch things a little bit, but check that list, because if there's something there, that's the priority. That's what I would really love to get some people for. If you want to help support the show, then you can be like Dan McMahon or Ono Lit Class and give the show money, because unfortunately it does cost money to run a podcast, but I would be doing this anyway. So, you know, just share it with friends or enemies or family members or random people on the street. I mean, if you want to, just transcribe it and put it in a message in a bottle, and somebody will hear it eventually or not. So, I mean, that would be really interesting if you did that, though. And if you do that, I want to see pictures. Don't forget that Play Comics is a part of the GonnaGeek.com network, home to such other wonderful shows as Capes on the Couch. Anthony is about ready to pop more episodes out because I can never get a hold of Doc. I'm starting to think he's a figment of my imagination. But at least if that's true, he's a figment of a lot of our imaginations. But yeah, go listen to that show. It's really, really fun. If you want to hear Carrington Martin and I look at pieces of media from our childhood and wonder, you know, all these lessons that we were supposed to have learned in here and everybody was really excited for us to have learned in there when we were growing up, why are we suddenly supposed to forget about those now? Then, hey, guess what? There's a show for that too. It's called Sugar Spite and Everything is Fine, and there's a link to that down in the show notes. If you're sensing a theme here, it's that I like to leave links for things. It's really fun to do that. If you like the music that I'm rudely talking on top of right now, head on over to backingtrack.gg and check out all the great music over there. But most of all, just grab a game, grab a stack of comics, and go find yourself a new favorite character.